Dr. Gigi El-Bayoumi. She's a professor of medicine at the George Washington University School of Medicine and Health Services and the founding director of the Rodham Institute. Now, doctor, thank you so much. I want to start talking about the impact this is having on so many Americans. According to a recent census survey, more than a quarter of Americans have missed a rent or mortgage payment. Nearly 11% say that they live in households where there is not enough food to eat. It's just stunning that this is happening in the richest country in the world. Do you expect these figures to continue to rise?
Well, before I answer that question, let's talk about pre-COVID. 1 in 5 children were going to bed hungry. And in Washington, D.C., for example, there is such a gap between the wealthiest and the poorest. So this is not a new problem. I think what this pandemic has done is it's laid bare the incredible inequities, which of course have been exacerbated. And so not surprising, and actually not as complicated to solve as people might think. There are solutions, which I'd love to talk with you more about.
So please, let's talk about those solutions. People are desperate.
Sure. Well, I mean, in 2018, there was a courting of farmers by the current administration. And what did they do? They subsidized farmers for growing food, growing crops. Right now, farmers are actually plowing under millions of tons of food on a daily basis. You have seen the videos of gallons, tens of thousands of gallons being poured out. And that's not a criticism of farmers. Many of them have donated foods to capital area food banks and food banks in general. And they are really upset that at the same time that they're plowing food under, they're actually planting next year's crop. So the government had actually said in 2018, we will pay you for being able to harvest your crops. Imagine, you harvest crops, you help support farmers, you can get the food distributed. There's a wonderful model in the Coachella Valley, Hidden Harvest, which does that. There are many other models. So if there is truly the political will to stop punishing people and causing what I believe is a passive genocide against men, women, children, the elderly, the disenfranchised, you name it, who are disproportionately people of color, of course, African Americans, Latinos, and let's not forget the indigenous people of the United States. I mean, it is shameful, if not outright obscene and criminal. And what I want the viewers to understand is that food is the foundation. From that, everything follows. Food is the most significant social determinant of mental health. What's going to happen after this pandemic is over? What are the long-term consequences? So this idea of sort of looking separately at food or housing or employment or education is what's getting us into trouble. We have to have a holistic approach that recognizes that these are all interdependent.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, what's going to happen to the millions of children who depend on food at school, right? 2 meals a day. If schools aren't going to be open, and obviously there are legitimate health-related reasons as to why schools may not be ready to open right now. But of course, when it comes to those children that need food, that's going to be lacking for them. There was a really upsetting piece in the Washington Post about families having to deal with not having an income now, having $10 in one case in his checking account, not knowing if he was going to be able to pay rent. A former police officer was sleeping on a family member's couch. How can we get these stories out to the public more so they can get more attention, so people can be more proactive and helpful if they can?
Well, I think that, for me as a physician, understanding that this is actually making the pandemic and increasing the deaths worse. I mean, food and nutrition impacts our immune system. Being able to sleep in a bed and not couch surf or be homeless impacts our immune system. These mental stress, anxiety, that affects our immune system. So when you're fighting an infection that is ravaging and attacking the immune system, to think that we can have these piecemeal kinds of solutions is naive and actually irresponsible, because the science, the data, the community-based organizations, the area food banks. There
Yeah.
is a lot of information that can actually help with the solutions.
Well, such an important conversation. Thank you so much for flagging it for us and giving us at least some solutions. Dr. El Bayoumi, we appreciate it.
My pleasure.